I am Qiao, though the world would later come to know me tenderly as Qiao Jiao Jiao. Everyone knows my marriage to Wei Xiao was never a romantic union blessed by fate. It was a cold political compromise forged in chaotic times, a shackle woven from centuries of feuding between our clans, a marriage burdened from the very start with blood and mortal hatred. What no one knows is that I have always carried the fated sorrows of a past life, a history of utter ruin, and a stubborn resolve to rewrite every cruel twist of destiny as I walked straight toward the tyrant of the troubled world who hated my Qiao family to the bone. The world sank into endless war and chaos. Mountains and rivers shattered, and warlords rose one after another to fight for dominion. In this era where power devoured all and human life was as fragile as grass, pure love never truly existed. There were only schemes, calculations, hatred, and helpless surrender. All the love, endurance, gentleness, and fortitude of my life began with a rebirth that transcended life and death, with a long redemption of overcoming strength with softness, and healing a broken soul with sincerity. My past life was an unmitigated tragedy. I once belonged to a peaceful world of stable rivers and tranquil times, until my soul crossed into this chaotic age and settled in the Qiao family of Yanzhou. I remember every ending of my former life with perfect clarity. I remember the Qiao family's betrayal, the brutal battle that reshaped the fates of two clans. Long ago, my ancestors and my granduncle defected on the battlefield, breaking their sworn alliance and brought about the total fall of the loyal Wei household. Wei Xiao's father and elder brother died on the battlefield. Countless Wei warriors spilled their blood on the land, their loyal bones buried in desolate soil for generations. That single betrayal toppled the once glorious Wei family overnight, leaving only widows and orphans struggling to survive. A young Wei Xiao hid inside a wooden chest, enduring 3 days and 3 nights of despair. He witnessed the annihilation of his clan and the brutal deaths of his kin. From that day on, a blood feud was carved deep into his bones, growing with him all his life. He swore an oath never to rest until the Qiao clan fell and his family's blood debts were repaid. And the ending of my past life was as cruel as fate had decreed. Arrogant and unrepentant, the Qiao family enraged all warlords, especially Wei Xiao, who by then held military power and dominion over the land. Once he seized supreme authority, he exacted merciless revenge. He razed the entire Qiao household to the ground, leaving rivers of blood and no survivors. I watched my family collapse, watched every loved one perish, and watched the young boy who might have once been gentle be consumed by hatred, reborn as the coldest tyrant of the age. Reborn carrying the scars of that devastation and endless remorse, I returned to the days before our fated marriage, when destiny still hung in the balance. At that time, the Qiao family was weak, surrounded by ambitious warlords, trapped in internal turmoil and external danger, teetering on the brink of collapse. To survive and ease the centuries-old feud, my family resolved on a political marriage, planning to send my elder sister to Yuzhou to wed Wei Xiao, the fierce and formidable Marquis of Yan. I knew my sister was spoiled, naive, and willful. If she married him, her lack of restraint and tact would only deepen the rift, ending inevitably in her death and the total destruction of our clan. To protect my family, to atone for my clan's ancestral sins, and to rewrite our doomed fate, I resolutely took my sister's place and traveled far to Yuzhou. I knew full well that the path ahead was an icy hell, filled with bitter hatred, leading to a husband who saw my entire family as mortal enemies. Yet I never hesitated. The world called me timid and humble, willing to lower myself and marry a warlord consumed by hatred. But no one understood that my yielding gentleness was never weakness. It was the only way to break fate, earned through surviving life and death and seeing through destiny. I craved no glory, no favor from my husband. I only wished to end the century-old feud, secure peace for both clans, save him from the abyss of hatred, and free myself from the cycle of tragic reincarnation. When I first arrived in Yuzhou, the cold was biting, yet people's hearts were colder still. To Wei Xiao, this marriage was nothing but a reluctant compromise forced by his grandmother, a temporary political ploy, a pawn for his hidden vengeance. It was never a blessing to cherish. On our wedding night, there was no warmth, only estrangement and ice. In his eyes burned no newlywed affection, only the blood feud of generations and a bone-deep loathing for everything the Qiao family stood for. The very next day, he sent me away to a remote courtyard without mercy. He barred me from the Wei ancestral temple, refused to recognize my marital status, and denied me every dignity as his wife. He treated me coldly and dismissively in public, making it clear I was the daughter of his enemies, the person he despised most in the world, a marriage token he could discard at will. The mansion servants followed his lead, treating me with neglect and contempt. Onlookers whispered and mocked. Everyone knew the Marquis of Yan hated the Qiao family. Everyone assumed my marriage was hollow, that I would spend my entire life in cold neglect and lonely desolation. Countless lonely nights, I resided alone in that secluded courtyard, forgotten and companionless. There were moments I felt wronged, confused, and utterly desolate with no one to confide in. Yet I never resented him, never hated him. I understood better than anyone that his cruelty, paranoia, and brutality were not inherent viciousness. They were armor forged from bloodshed, sharp edges honed by the despair of his tragic youth. He lost his family as a child, raised on battlefields amid endless war, scarred by a lifetime of bloodshed. No one had ever treated him with kindness. No one had ever shown him warmth. Hatred was his only obsession, revenge his sole reason to live. The world feared his cruelty and condemned his ruthlessness, but only I saw the loneliness, sincerity, and fragile softness hidden beneath his cold, unyielding exterior. I never argued with him, never confronted him, never acted spoiled, arrogant, or aggrieved. I stayed by his side with quiet, patient, unshakable gentleness. I managed the inner household, comforted his clansmen, treated servants with kindness, and brought order to the chaotic Wei manor. I understood his helplessness, his political restraints, the hardships of surviving in a chaotic world, and the hidden goodness he never revealed to anyone. Everyone thought I humbled myself to please him, surrendering my dignity for survival. But I knew the truth. I was not surrendering. I was redeeming him. I sought to melt the ice of his lifetime with my warmth, heal his countless scars with my sincerity, and end a century of hatred with my truthful heart. Our relationship began in estrangement and bloomed eventually into deep, devoted love. At first, he guarded against me endlessly, testing my every move, speaking coldly, and treating me distantly. He saw me only as a spy planted by the Qiao family, always vigilant, always pulling away. He deliberately snubbed me and drew clear boundaries, refusing to show me the slightest tenderness, terrified of softening his heart and betraying the loyal souls of his fallen kin. Yet no heart remains frozen forever, not against persistent gentleness and unwavering sincerity. I craved nothing, envied nothing, faced all matters with calm wisdom and steady poise. Amid the chaos of war and political intrigue, I preserved my pure kindness and upright integrity. He fought on the battlefield year after year, facing mortal danger with every campaign, returning home weathered, exhausted, and scarred. I never questioned his dangers or begged for constant companionship. I simply prepared his clothes and warm wine, tended to the household, and secured a peaceful home for him, so he might fight across the realm with no lingering worries. It was not my gentle looks or mild temperament that finally disarmed him and won his heart. It was my unique vision and unyielding spirit in a world of chaos. The Battle of Shanggu marked the turning point of our fates. While Wei Xiao led his main army into battle, the city was left defenseless. Enemy troops invaded, approaching the city gates, throwing the people into panic and chaos. The city stood on the verge of collapse. In that desperate crisis, no official dared to take charge. No one could calm the turmoil. Everyone believed I was merely a gentle, sheltered wife from a political marriage, helpless and terrified in disaster. But no one knew I had witnessed the cruelty of fate and understood the ways of the chaotic world. In that critical moment, I set aside my soft demeanor and stepped forward. As the matriarch of the Wei household, I took command of the city, stabilized public order, reassured the people, and held fast against the invasion. Calm and resolute in crisis, I quelled internal unrest and resisted external enemies. Single-handedly, I defended the city, protected the foundation of the Wei clan, and preserved his final safe haven in the world. Through this battle, I protected countless lives and secured his legacy. Most of all, I shattered every prejudice and obsessive hatred Wei Xiao harbored toward the Qiao family and toward me. When he returned and saw the unharmed city, the orderly household, and me standing fearless and steady in the aftermath of war, The ice that had sealed his heart for decades finally cracked. For the first time, his eyes held warmth, emotion, and burning tenderness he had never known before. In that moment, he finally understood. I was never a calculating pawn of the Qiao family, never a naive, fragile woman of the inner court. I bore foresight and tolerance, soft yet unbreakable, gentle yet fearless. Beneath my mild appearance lay a heart that held mountains and rivers, a mind that understood the world. From then on, his defenses crumbled, his hatred faded, and love took root silently in his heart. He began to accept me, approach me, and trust me completely. He shed the cruelty he showed the world and reserved all his gentleness and exclusive favor for me alone. Past cold neglect turned to meticulous care, and past suspicion turned to unreserved honesty. He would set aside his armor and sharpness to share simple daily moments with me. Amid the chaos of the realm, he shielded my peace. Amid political schemes, he gave me his absolute trust. He bestowed upon me all the sincerity and tenderness he had never offered to anyone else in his life. Yet love and hatred are never easily untangled. The century-old feud stood immovable between us, an inescapable barrier etched deep in our souls. Even as we fell in love, we could not escape suspicion, estrangement, and emotional struggle. He bore the weight of his family's blood feud, the unavenged souls of his father and brother. Public criticism and clan restraints chained his heart. He loved me deeply, yet was trapped in endless guilt and conflict. He cared for me, yet could never fully let go of the hatred rooted in his family's tragedy. I too walked carefully, always hesitant and guarded. I understood his pain, empathized with his struggle, and pitied his helplessness. I dared not crave excessive favor or indulge in intimate warmth. I could only love him gently, tolerate him patiently, heal his inner scars little by little, and gradually dissolve the accumulated hatred between our clans. Countless misunderstandings pulled us apart. Countless silent trials tested our hearts. Countless moments of affection were restrained by reason. We wandered endlessly between hatred and love, redeeming each other amid fate and emotion. The world praised my meekness, claiming I lowered myself and bent my waist for him. But no one knew the true one who yielded, compromised, and surrendered to love was always Wei Qiao.
As the wars intensified and chaos spread across the land, we stood side by side through every storm and danger. I accompanied him on his battlefield campaigns, assisted his political strategies, helped him resolve court conflicts, cleared every obstacle in his path, and walked with him from regional warlord to supreme ruler of the realm. I endured countless perils, endless emotional struggles, and misunderstanding from the world alongside him. I used gentleness as my armor and wisdom as my blade, calming his heart, stabilizing his domain, supporting his rise, and accompanying him to the peak of power. I remained sober and clear-minded, never arrogant with his love, never dependent on his status. I knew love in chaotic times was fragile. Only inner steadfastness and unyielding grace allowed me to stand equal beside him. I did not chase fleeting affection or momentary favor. I only prayed for lasting peace, faithful hearts, the end of ancient hatreds, and his freedom from the prison of resentment. Slowly, I watched him change. He let go of his paranoid hatred, broke free from the chains of his past, and abandoned his vengeful obsession. He learned gentleness, tolerance, and forgiveness. He learned how to love and how to live. The lonely young tyrant consumed by bloodshed was healed by my tenderness and redeemed by my sincerity, growing into a benevolent ruler who cherished his people and his realm. I too broke free from the cycle of tragic fate. I rewrote my clan's doomed destruction, dissolved the century-old feud, and escaped the catastrophic ending of my past life. No longer a powerless spectator watching everything crumble, I became the master of my destiny, protecting my loved ones and grasping my own happy ending. The world would later say that my gentle perseverance tamed the most unruly tyrant of the age. But only Wei Qiao and I knew the truth. I never tamed him. He knelt and bent his waist for me by his own will. Vast rivers and mountains, prosperous glory, all were empty fame to him. He fought endless wars and conquered the realm, winning the world and unifying the land. Yet his greatest victory, the thing that made his life worthwhile, was not supreme power or endless territory. It was meeting me amid bloodshed and chaos, keeping me safe, bending his pride for me, and softening his life for my sake. Lovers in this world bow for romance, for glory, for fame and fortune. But my Wei Qiao bent his lifelong unyielding pride solely for me, tenderizing every remaining year of his life. Through war and chaos, tangled love and hatred, fated struggle and mutual redemption, we finally transcended clan hatred and worldly prejudice. We weathered every storm and overcame every barrier. What began as a cold political marriage bloomed into an exclusive, lifelong love. From suspicious strangers, we became soulmates and lovers, standing side by side over the entire realm. Reborn with endless regret and remorse, bound by the chains of fate, I once walked forward cautiously, fearing misstep. I thought my life would consist only of endurance and redemption, daring not to hope for perfection. Yet fate was kind, and time was gentle. In this broken, chaotic world, I met the man who would bow for me, humble himself for me, and devote his entire life to me. The wars have ended, the chaos has faded, the smoke of battle has dispersed, and peace has settled upon the land. I once believed bending my waist meant yielding, humbling myself, surrendering against my will. But I finally understand. True surrender is never weakness. It is love, cherishment, willing devotion, and the purest, most sincere affection in the world. He bent his waist for me, abandoning his lifelong hatred and laying down his sharpness to grant me a peaceful life. I stayed faithful to him, offering my lifelong tenderness to dissolve all estrangement and accompany him through every passing year. We met in troubled times, bound by hatred at first, united by love in the end. Half a lifetime of wind and war, accompanied by mountains and rivers, bound together for all eternity. My life has no regrets.